Over the weekend, news broke of banks collapsing. Today at 9 a.m., Joe Biden wakes up super early to warn everybody that there's a problem, but don't worry, we're going to solve it, and you got nothing. It's not going to come from taxpayers. We're now hearing Jen Psaki say, look, he's getting up early. That's how important this is. A second bank collapsed. Now more banks are seeing their stock starting to falter dramatically. Early hour trading had one bank down like 70%. I have the story for you from Timcast.com. Jane Fonda suggests murder in response to overturning of Roe v. Wade during The View, the show The View. Co-host Joy Behar repeatedly insisted the actress was just kidding, but Jane Fonda rolls her eyes like, no, I'm not. And you know what's funny? No one thinks she's kidding. Period. No one. On the left, they're giggling. And on the right, they're like, they're coming for us. Here's the video. Oh, let me unmute it for you.
Many decades now of having agency over our body, of being able to determine when and how many children to have. We know what that feels like. We know what that's done for our lives. We're not going back. I don't care what the laws are. We're not going back.
I'll pause there. I don't care what the laws are, she said. Remember that.
I think the women will rise up.
That's the activist.
That's Jane
speaking, and she probably will get a Nobel Prize.
But it's the truth.
Very soon.
She probably will get a Nobel Prize. But let's continue. Here's the juicy part.
It is the truth. We're not going to do it.
Besides
gonna
marching and protesting, what else do you suggest?
Well, it doesn't
I thought of
happen
murder.
overnight. It's not a miraculous. What did you say?
Murder.
She's kidding. Wait a second. She's
Look at her
just
face.
kidding.
Don't say that. That's
Oh, you don't know. They'll pick up on that and
Yeah,
just run
that's
with
the
it.
worst.
She's just
joking.
kidding. It's
Well, let me talk to you about.
She's not kidding. And, they'll pick up on that. Let me play it again for you because it's kind of hard to hear, but let me play it again for you.
Speaking, and she probably will get a Nobel Prize.
But it's the truth.
Very soon.
It is the truth. We're not going to do it.
besides
We're gonna
marching and protesting, what else do you suggest?
Well,
Well,
it doesn't
I thought of
happen
murder.
overnight. It's not a miraculous.
I think said, well, I thought murder. Let me play it again.
Marching and protesting, what else do you suggest?
Well,
Well,
it
I
doesn't
thought of
happen
murder.
overnight. It's not a miraculous. What did you say?
Murder.
She's kidding. Wait a second. She's just
That,
kidding.
don't say that. That's
Oh, you don't know. They'll pick up on that and
Yeah,
just run
that's
with
the
it.
worst.
She's just
joking.
kidding. It's
Well, let me talk to you about.
And then she gives a look. If it was a joke, you wouldn't need to be like, I'm kidding. We don't. She's not kidding, man. I hear these stories all the time. And there are stories about civil war, conflict, crisis, etc., where you hear that tribes were forming and then people would go on TV and say things like this, and they'd be like, people didn't take it seriously. They did not take it seriously. All right, I'm going to do it. I am going to invoke the historical political trope. There were people in World War II Germany. There were Jewish people who fled the country early on. When asked later on, why did you leave? They said, we could see the signs. We could see what was happening. And there were people that stayed. And they were asked, why did you stay? They said, I didn't believe it could really happen. When you hear someone go on national television and suggest the murder of pro-life individuals, probably politicians, because I don't know who else you'd be talking about, is the appropriate response just be like, she's kidding. Ain't nothing going to happen. Or when you look at severe economic instability, severe mental disorder, anxiety and disorders skyrocketing among 18 to 29-year-olds, do you just sit here and say nothing will happen? In the previous segment I did, I was talking about an article from the Free Press, Barry Weiss's publication, showing that among 18 to 29-year-old liberals, male and female, they have extremely high instances of mental health diagnoses. Liberal women, over 50%. What do you think they will do when they are in their 30s and trying to run industry? Not to mention the fact that millennials already have extremely high instances of mental illness as it is. Conservatives don't. It's very low, relatively low. Still higher among the younger generations. Everyone is seeing an increase in these diagnoses. Now, it's possible doctors are just overprescribing. But it's also, I think, fair to say, political tensions are escalating. Anxieties are escalating. We are getting wound so tight. And then psychopaths like Jane Fonda go on TV and suggest murder. And you know what's going to happen? There's going to be a 23-year-old woman. And she hears that and she goes, yeah, we're not going back. We're not going back. She's right, you know. Ha 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 ha. She's just joking, say the boomers. Young people will not be. She's not joking. This is where we are headed. Here's one for you. Attorneys for Proud Boy Dominic Pizzola file motion to dismiss based on corruption. And the prosecutors deny. The federal government has been weaponized to go after the political enemies of the Democrats, period. The Republican establishment's a bunch of feckless losers who are angry that Donald Trump's party actually took over. They weren't supposed to. The Democrats have successfully staved off a Bernie Sanders takeover, so they have control. So now, any populist uprising, left or right, will be stopped. Fortunately, the left has been integrated effectively to a certain degree with the Democrats. On the right, not so much. So when the Proud Boys go marching around, they're called neo-Nazis, but despite the fact that the fights were always started by Antifa. I don't know, I say always, but for the most part, overwhelmingly. Some instances of Proud Boys, well, I should say the Proud Boys would go to an event and Antifa would chase after them. It typically wasn't the case that the Proud Boys would show up to Antifa events because Antifa events were sporadic. But what ends up happening? We now know that there were messages where the FBI discussed destroying 338 pieces of evidence. And you know what they're doing now? No, it's all unrelated. All unrelated messages. Am I going to believe them? I don't. They're saying that you're taking these messages out of context, you know? Like we had an agent wanted their name removed because they didn't want anyone to know that they were present with one of these informants. That's just normal. And destroying evidence, we do it all the time after a case is concluded. Everybody knows that. Maybe. But am I just going to trust these people who have clearly not gone after far left extremists and have targeted people on January 6th with no remorse? Videos emerging of people bumbling about in the Capitol building confused because they were let in by the police, and some even being acquitted by judges because the cops clearly fanned them into the building? Why are these people in jail at all? So am I supposed to trust the FBI when they say, no. That message we deleted where they said they were instructed to destroy evidence has nothing to do with this. No. I believe the fair move is a motion to dismiss. But it doesn't matter to the greater context. For these people, it does, obviously. But for this segment, what I'm trying to point out is you best start believing in Civil War stories because you're in one. They can go on national television and call for murder. I cannot do anything remotely say anything close to that on YouTube. We have had actual analogies. It's the one time we've ever gotten a video taken down. Well, technically they took down a video where I was reporting on a guy because the censorship is real. But in terms of violating the rules, yeah. We had someone use an analogy and they said, no analogies. And I'm like, no one was literally calling for violence. We actually all denounced it. Nope, doesn't matter. Nope, not for you. The View actually can have her call for murder of pro-life. Now they say Red Voice News says pro-life politicians. She didn't specifically say politicians, but I think the insinuation is, yeah, policymakers, people in government. She's kidding. Don't say that. After last summer's overturning of Roe v. Wade, Fonda, who has been involved in activism throughout her career, said the decision sickened her and hoped for mobilization. I am sickened, really. The United States of America has joined with backward countries who still have these most medieval laws of the role of women. I think it's funny because the abortion laws in the United States are more lax than Europe. And with some of these laws that are passing, they're actually still more lax than Europe. Europe's very strict when it comes to abortion. I'm hoping it will mobilize women to vote this November. I'm hoping it will galvanize progressive people to vote because that's what's at stake. But the Supreme Court has lost credibility. It's become a right-wing swamp. Whatever. Neither The View nor ABC have publicly addressed Fonda's comments as of Friday afternoon. And that news broke on a Friday, which meant it basically died, which is why I wanted to talk about it today on Monday. That way, it can be revived. Questions and conversation around why a prominent daytime TV talk show had an individual advocate for murder. Now, you may say, oh, calm down. It's a joke, Tim. Considering the degree of tensions in this country, I believe it prudent to come out and say, guys, please do not engage in violence. The View should apologize and address those remarks. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.